Hello and welcome to another episode of Cyrils Brettspiele, Table Talk Edition with
Kathleen.
A new face and Nils, of course, an old face. Damn.
Old, decrepit, falling apart.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. I'm probably older than you are.
Anyway, Kathleen, would you like to introduce yourself for a couple of sentences because it's your first show, right?
Thank you for my couple of sentences. My name is Kathleen Mercury. I'm here in St. Louis. I teach game design to my 7th grade students. I'm a big-time gamer myself. So if you've ever seen the games in If you've ever seen the Games in the Classroom forum on BGG, I post my students' game designs as Funk Donut. They're phenomenal, and this is my favorite thing ever.
I will put the Funk Donut link in the comments for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Like what they do. They love thumbs. They love thumbs.
Yeah, so these seventh grade?
7th graders, yes.
So these young kids, they are really like thumbs, so click on it.
Yes.
Today, let's talk about a game.
Yeah.
I would say let's talk about No Thanks from Mayfair Games. So you want to teach the rules or should I do that?
Oh, I'm happy to teach the rules.
Okay.
So in the game No Thanks, you have a deck of cards, and every player has chips, and the number of chips that you have depends on the number of players. The cards themselves range in value from 3 to 35. The colors don't mean anything, they're just visual interest. So to start the game, you'll shuffle this deck, and then you'll pull out 9 cards and set them off to the side. And then once you have those cards removed, you put the deck down in front of all the players. And to start a player's turn, you flip over the card, and then players will then decide if they want that card, which means they take it and put it in their play area, or if they don't want it, they can say, no thanks. So when one player has the 3 card, and then the next person takes the card in front of them. Now to give you some examples of why you would want to take certain cards, so let's look at some possible combinations. For example, if the 26 card is in play, and then let's say it goes around and there's a number of chips placed around it on turn, and so it comes around and let's say that I get this card, and it goes in front of me. It goes in front of me. And so now I have all these chips in my hand, and this is worth 26 points. Now when we flip over the next card, it's a 27 by luck of the magic of television. And so now this is a great card for me because chances are no one else wants this. This is a really high number. I have 26 points. So what I'm trying to do now is I wait and watch for other people to take their turn to either play a no thanks chip, or maybe someone takes it because they've run out of chips and they have to, or that someone takes it to spite me, which happens with 7th grade boys. But let's say that it comes around that there's a lot of chips placed on top of me and it comes back to me. I might actually decide to put another chip on it so that other players can continue to place lots of chips on the card so that when I take this card, I have a lot of chips and I have this 27. Now you may be saying, why does this crazy woman want to have a 26 and 27? Well, the higher numbers hide behind the lower number card. So instead of this being 26 plus 27 points, this is now just worth 27 because the 27 hides behind that. So when you are able to sequence cards together, you're able to take advantage of those higher numbers as ways to bleed out other people in order to win the game. So that's when the example we will talk about later. One of my first cards that I got was a 33, but I ended up winning the game because that was the only card I get, plus I had a high number of chips. So you can see in this deck here, the cards that are in play, you can also see the secret cards. So for example, 14, 15, and 12, these are all taken out of the game. So if somebody got the 13 and the 11, they might be thinking, woohoo, I'm in a great spot. I can sequence these cards. But they won't know until later that that card was never even available. So no thanks, a fun little game.
Okay, thanks so much for the rules. Let's talk a little bit about the components. I mean, take a look at the size of the box. This is probably a $10 game, I think, in the stores.
Yeah.
So in your store around the corner, it should be $9.99 or things like that. So what can you expect for it? So you get these plastic tokens. They are functional, but not super high quality. And the cards is the same. The quality is good enough to last for 50, 60, 70 games, which is awesome. but I think you cannot expect more. Do you have any concerns about the quality?
No, the only thing with the chips, especially when I play a lot of games with students, you know, they're sitting there doing, you know, making all these noise, and it's like you want to keep them quiet. It's a secret when they're in their hand, and sometimes they're just like, I'm out of chips. You're like,
yeah,
that's not how you play. So that's kind of fun. And sometimes when people have problems with their hands, if they have any sort of dexterity or arthritis or something, it can be hard to hold the chips.
Yeah, that's true.
So having some sort of backup method, maybe where you like put them under a cup or behind a little shield or something like that, that might help people who have some physical dexterity problems. But otherwise, they're plastic chips. I mean, our copy of No Thanks, my boyfriend and I don't even know how many times we've played it. They're fine.
Yeah, they are lasting long enough to at least 50 games, I'm pretty sure.
More than that, yeah.
If you really want, you can sleeve it, of course, but I think you don't have to do it.
Right.
So, do you have any ideas for making that game better? Any house rules, critics? So,
you know, the nice thing with No Thanks is the rules are pretty simple. They're pretty intuitive. So we don't really have a whole lot as far as that goes. I think if you want to make more of a challenge, giving people less chips at the start, or even if there was some sort of like, if you really wanted to go crazy, some sort of like blind draw where you put like random numbers of chips, or even vary the number of chips slightly in cups so people didn't know exactly how many chips. Because in one game that we played today, one of my students was counting and was announcing exactly how many chips each of the students, everybody had left, including myself, so everyone knew. And I think so a little bit of secret information may not be the worst thing if you just want to mix it up, try something different.
I think that's a really good idea you can even that out over the course of 3 or 4 games, right? So you could start with, instead of the rule says 7, instead of 7, between 6 and 8.
Right.
And if you have 6, then you get next time 1 additional.
Right.
So you don't have from 6 to 8, you have from 7 to 9 or things like that.
So just a little bit of variance, just to keep it a little bit interesting, a little bit spicy.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I think that, or the player who won the last game gets a little bit less, things like that. Right.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So let's talk a little bit about the mechanics. I really, really like this idea of trying to bleed someone out. And
And I think that's one of the things for my students that they had a hard time grasping. I think it's because of like the more immediate of, I want that now. And it's like, you don't need to take that. No one else wants that. Bleed them out. Especially if it was a card that wasn't going to help them. If they had a 33 and a 34, if the 35 came up, they have no reason to take it. In fact, it might be better to throw it at somebody else. So if they do take it, let them bleed out their chips.
Yeah, but you know, this is exactly what I really like on games like this and on this mechanics, because when you play that with 5, 6, or 7 players, you cannot control and look in the brains of the other person. You have always people around the table, they are acting against what you
absolutely.
That.
Absolutely.
So it's always on the edge. So if you have a 35 on the table and there are 10 coins out of it, so take it or let it go. It's always this tense feeling of, can I get another round or not?
Yeah,
so that's what I really like.
Right, but I do think for more inexperienced players, though, they have a tendency to take the cards rather than trying to let it out. So I would say if just starting to play the game, try not to take it, even if you lose, you lose, fine. You know, try to see how much those chips can build up. And especially because there was one where I started the game with a 32, which is a terribly high card, but it had so many chips on it, Nils pointed out quite rightly, that I had enough in hand to basically decide whether or not I wanted to take any cards the rest of the game. I got a 33, and then I had 15 chips. So I ended up winning the game with 17, if my math is correct. And it was
whatever.
But everyone immediately thought I would be out of the game because I had such a high number to start with, but it really was those chips, secret information, that let me win the game. So don't forget the importance of that.
Yeah, I that's one of the, for me, if you really wanted to make a math on that, one of the goals to win the game is get early a couple of chips, so then you have potentially the ability to let it just pass always. But if you
Right.
really want it, you can jump in. So you
Right.
get never in this situation where you're
Yeah.
really short on chips.
Right, you run out of chips, you pick up a card that has 2 chips, everybody kind of figures out, and then then it just cascades from there. Absolutely.
But for me, and now we are slidingly perfectly into fun and replayability. That is exactly the spice of the game for me.
Right.
That you have always this different characters sitting around the table.
Right.
And you can even sometimes I'm sitting there and guessing, is he taking it, not? Taking a closer look to that person, trying to intimidate him, take it, don't take it, whatever is in my favor. But then I think, damn, why he took it? So it was obviously not a good choice.
Right. Well, and especially like when we're playing with my students, like they will play to screw each other over, even if that's not in their best interest at all. I want it just because you do, even if it makes their game just in the absolute toilet. But for them, winning is making the other player mad, not necessarily having the lowest number of points. So for them, they have a very different take on victory sometimes, but that's what makes it fun to play with them.
I have to admit and to say, when I played that game with other non-gamers, I had always this experience.
Right.
There's always 1 or 2 players. You can definitely count on you have 1 or 2 of these players in there. So
I think for me, one of the big gauges for success for a game, especially something that's a small little card game, pick it up, take it with you to a family thing, have it in your bag in case there's time. My mother will play this game. And
really?
Yes. Oh, because trust me, like
Thanksgiving.
Right. So Space Beans is one where my mom can play that one, but she will, if you're familiar with Space Beans, she will, every single hand, she will sort of review the rules with herself. But this is one where she can just pick it up and play it. And she's a very smart woman. But, just games aren't necessarily her thing. So this is definitely a game that for new players that can grasp the rules really, really easy. It's accessible. So especially when you've got friends who are like, I don't want to play with those weird board games you have. We said, this is a fun card game. Because card games tend to be a little bit easier for new players too. And it's really fun and fast. So you can play this several times. And, all of a sudden, half an hour, 45 minutes has gone by no problem.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So I would definitely, and we can go over to our ratings. I would definitely at least recommend it for gateway gamers, casual gamers, especially groups with different ages. So if you have someone who's a little bit elderly, some kids around the table, this game really brings families together and people of largely different ages.
Oh yeah. And this is something where a lot of times my students are drawn to games that are big and splashy with lots of animals or characters or whatever. And this is a very simple card game, but I think especially playing it multiple times and seeing the different strategies, we saw very different gameplay from some of the students from the first time they played it to this time. Even if last time they made a big deal like, oh, I'm going to take it because this is going to hurt you.
Yeah, but he, especially the one boy you're talking about, he learned so much.
Right, and played it very differently the next time, even though he'd made such a big production of like how he was playing it the first time around. So it's something where you can see strategies very quickly, which I think is really exciting when you're a gamer, a new gamer, because you want to try to figure things out, and for them, this is an easy game to do.
Okay, so I guess that's a recommendation for you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I have a copy of it. You have a copy of it. You should get a copy of it.
What a surprise. Okay, thanks so much for watching, and see you next time when it is Cyrils Brettspiele with...
Oh, that's very...
Surprisingly.
No, I was so excited to say like, Juicy! No, I was so excited to use my German, Kathleen.
And Nils. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.